Sorry about that. I made a mess of my head again. But this video is more on some of the books that I have. The majority of these books are actually not Wiccan books, pagan books, witchcraft books. I think a couple may fall under that. A couple of them will fall into that area, but majority of these books are not. In fact, I think some of these books could actually help with understanding the gods and goddesses of, well, mainly Greek past, but and then there are some books that are just, some books that just have nothing to do with that at all. Let's start with some of the books that actually do lend towards pagan books. Let's see, I have here the Runic Workbook. Now, I've had this book for a very long time, and I bought this when I first was interested in learning about runes. However, have not had much of a chance of learning them yet, of even really reading this book yet. But this book, it's a workbook. I have read some of it. I even have some highlighted sections here. This is when I was big on highlighting everything. But this workbook covers divination. So you have an introduction to the runes, first steps in divination, the Elder Futhark. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Runic proportions, choosing a gemstone, flowers and the runes, numerology and the runes, the Anglo-Saxon Futhark. The one was Futhark. This is Futhark. The next section deals with magic, and so you have rune scripts, bind runes, the runes and other symbol systems, and what comes next. And so this is a workbook, and it does have a couple of spreads in here. So that might be one you might want to consider. This is by Tony Willis. Then there is the Wiccan Spell a Day. This is 365 spells, charms, and potions for the whole year by Sirona Knight. It's this, and I got this book used about a month ago. I have not really had much of a chance to really go through it, but there were some interesting things that they had in here, like what is this one here? An affirmation bath. This was in November, but yeah, I thought that would be interesting to do. There's relaxation potions, pentacle prosperity, this one for independence coin charm, healing the earth, good health binding, balance your first chakra, among other things that are in this book. The Witch's Spell a Day Almanac, and I really liked this one. Not every one is a spell. Some are just chants or affirmations, but I guess you can't consider spells. But this is much like the Wiccan Spell a Day one. Same thing, except for this is set up in almanac form. So you have your dates, calendar dates. This is by Leolin, and I always have problems pronouncing that, even though I hear everyone say it all the time. So you do have your planetary symbols, your moon phases. It does have in here. I think it even has the when the moon is in void, of course. So this I found to be very helpful. And I think I'm going to get the one for next year. This is the one for 2011. And this is a Druid's Herbal for the Sacred Earth Year by Elaine Everett Hockman. And I haven't read everything in here, but basically this is about, well, you get information on different herbs. So you have like the part that's used, the herbal usage, the homeopathic usage, and the magical usage of a lot of, and not just herbs. It does have like berries and, you know, resins and things like that in here. I found this to be very informative. You also have information on planetary rulings of different herbs. It'll list us in a separate section. It lists like these are moon ruled plants, Mercury ruled plants, sun ruled plants. It also gives you, I want to say how far back some of these things go. So it'll have things that were in like the Neolithic and Mesolithic time. As far as scientific evidence goes, how accurate that is, can't even begin to say. But I found this book to be pretty informative. So again, this is, now if this is just herbs and stuff that Druids had used or that Druids currently use, I don't know if that's what it is. But it does also give you things like things on homeopathic dosages. It also has a little thing here for what do you call it? The Sabbats practiced by Druids. So basically their wheel of the year. You do get things like the Celtic tree calendar, the tree alphabet, and it's Ogham. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Ogham symbols. Next, oh Lord, I think I'd be used to camera stuff by now, but no. What else is there? That's just other things. Little, you know, rules on preparation, and then how to make salves, tinctures, poultices, fermentations, syrups. Is that it? I hope so, because I just lost the page after that. So, but I find that book to be very useful as well. This one, I think we're starting to veer away from, you know, paganism or new agey kind of things. This is, well, no, this is not really new agey, I guess. Not really veering away from that, but candles, meditations, and healing. And what this book has is information on like to cleanse and purify. There's like candle workings, meditations for money. There's altar setups. Oh, good. This book I used a lot of times back in the day. I didn't have a lot of bookmarks, and I was reading more than one book at a time. So I used the receipts for bookmarks. So let's see when I bought this book. This book I bought in 3/25 of 2002. And what was the price of this book? I don't know, because I bought a couple of things that day. But this book is by Kathleen Whitaker. Let's see the table of contents so that you know what's to expect in this one. Create your inner sanctuary. Build your material altar equipment. Prepare yourself to use the altar. This is basically making a meditation altar. when I say altars. Selecting a time for candle burning, lighting your candles, the way your candles burn, things to remember, candle colors, candle readings, bringing the magic together, and dictionary of symbols. I have not read this book in great detail. I think I've only really just kind of skimmed through it. But here's one to probably consider: Candles, Meditations, and Healing. Now, these books all deal with Greek mythology, and these books I've had much longer than before I even considered changing my religion. So I was Catholic. A lot of these books I've actually had as a kid, because I've always been interested in Greek mythology. So I have The Universe, the Gods, and Man, Ancient Greek Myths by Jean-Pierre Vernant. So this is what it looks like. So the stories in here aren't just about Greek gods. It's, like Greek heroes as well. So you get stuff like the origin of the universe, the war of the gods and Zeus's kingship, the human world, the Trojan War, Odysseus, the human adventure, Dionysus at Thebes, Oedipus out of joint, Perseus, death, and image. That's a pretty good book. This is Homer's The Iliad, and this I actually got in college. I was taking was it classical heritage, maybe? I think it might have been. So we read a lot of Greek plays, and I kept a lot of the books. I do have actually other smaller plays, but I can't find those books right now. One of them is like Women of Trachis, Prometheus, Bound or Unbound. One is the Greek play. But anyway, so in here, this is the Iliad. So this is about the Trojan War. This was a very, very good book. I loved it. Loved it. I need to hurry. I'm running out of time. The Greek Myths, the complete edition by Robert Graves. This is another very good, informative book. And we start off again. We have a few creation myths actually in this one. So you get the Pelasgian, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, creation myth, the Homeric and Orphic creation myths, the Olympian creation myths, the philosophical creation myth. And then you have the 5 ages of man, the castration of Uranus, and so on and so forth. So we start from the very beginning, when the birth of the Titans, all that. And it's just a lot of stuff in this book. It's really very informative too on Greek mythology. Also, and those who are into Greek mythology buffs may know about this one, Mythology. They'll know Edith Hamilton. She was very prolific in this field. But again, this has a lot of the stories. I don't know. Yeah, this one starts off with creation too, the gods, the creation, and the early heroes. And then it goes on and on and on. So you get a lot of those too from that book. And it's always good to read more than one author in a certain field, because a lot of them, they have their own slant on the myths and things like that too. So I think you get more of a rounded view. This is Ovid's Metamorphoses, and these have to deal with the stories that have to deal with transformations. So you get like say Apollo and Daphne's tale, when she's turned into a tree. She's fleeing from Apollo because she doesn't want to submit to him, and so I forget what goddess it is, turns her into a laurel tree, and that is why the laurel wreath is associated with Apollo. So you get things like that in here. This is a great book. I have another book by Ovid, but I think that's more of his erotic tales. Ovid's Metamorphoses is another one I read in college actually. Now, getting away from... Oh no, and I have one more on Greek myths. The Aeneid by Virgil. And this tells about Aeneas after the fall of Troy. So this is from his escape from Troy on. And I want to say this has also to deal with the formation of Rome. Might be in here too. It's been years since I've read that, Aeneid, but I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna have to. Okay, I think I'm just gonna put these two clips together to make one video, so it's not like part one, part two kind of thing. There's a couple of more books. This has to deal with Celtic history. This is by Peter Beresford Ellis. I have not read this book in its entirety either, but it starts off from, and I really got this book really again as research for one of the stories I was writing a few years back. But I found a lot of information that helped me with the story. If it's truly historically accurate, again, I can't speak. I'm not a scholar on Celtic history, but I have the origin of the Celts, the Celtic kings and chieftains, the Druids, Celtic warriors, Celtic women, Celtic farmers, Celtic physicians, Celtic cosmology, Celtic road builders, Celtic artists and craftsmen, Celtic Celtic architecture, Celtic religion, Celtic myths and legends, and early Celtic history. That's what you'll find in this book here, The Celts, A History. This one is another on Celtic myths and legends. This is by Charles Squire. So you have it says from King Arthur and the Round Table to the Celtic gods and the giants they battled, the celebrated comprehensive treasury of mythology, legends, and poetry. This is the revised edition, and is an introduction in here by Sirona Knight. Let's see if I can find a table of contents. Okay. It starts off with interest and importance of Celtic mythology, the sources of our knowledge of Celtic mythology, who were the ancient Britons, the religion of the ancient Britons and Druids. And then I'm not going to read everything in table of contents, I'm just going to read the sections. So, in one section you get the Gaelic gods and their stories, the British gods and their stories, and then survival of the Celtic paganism. So that's what you'll find in this book, Celtic Myths and Legends, revised edition by Charles Squire. I can't read today. Oh my gosh. And a little thing down here at the bottom, introduction by Sirona Knight, author of Exploring Celtic Druidism. Okay. This is about medieval myths. This I actually had for a history class, which one of the reasons why I love this history class, and I took this teacher twice. I took medieval history and ancient history with him. He incorporates literature with his lesson because the literature of the time reflects the history of the time, the society at the time, the beliefs of those in that society at the time. So, medieval myths by Norma Lore Goodrich. Laura Lore, I don't know if I pronounced it right. But let's see, table of contents. So we have Beowulf, which is a Scandinavian tale, and it tells you where each tale is from, which society each tale reflects. So yeah, okay. So you have, I'm gonna read just a few. So you have Roland, which is France, Berta of Hungary, which is also France. Okay, I know I'm definitely going to pronounce this one wrong. Cuchulainn, which is Ireland, Prince Igor, Russia, and the Cid, which is Spain. And basically, it's all those stories in this book. This, again, I had from my medieval history class. This book And I have more than one book on herbs. This is not a pagan book or anything like that, or a metaphysical book. This is a reference guide, which I have found to be very handy. The Big Book of Herbs. So there you go. And there are some pictures. Most of the pictures are drawn pictures, like here. Turn that more. So you get a lot of pictures that are drawn about herbs, but you do have some actual photos in here. If I can find where it was. Herbs of flavor and fragrance. So that's the section. Okay, my camera's at an angle. So that's why it's like that. But so you got here, you know, herbs and flowers. So a little bit more of the pictures that you will find in the book. There's only a little section that has these pictures. This is not throughout the book. But you get information on these flowers, like the origin, availability, the uses. Usually these are culinary uses, but it gives you information on all of them. This is really not a New Age book at all. I do have some herb books that are more New Agey, homeopathic books, but those are put away somewhere, so I'm not fighting through that. This book is another book that I actually bought to help me write my story, and I think I bought this last year sometime. And I found it to be very helpful because this is Vampires, a field guide on the creatures that stalk the night by Dr. Bob Coran. And there are pictures, or drawn pictures with each one of these. These are vampire legends around the world. So, and when I say that, I mean like what they consider vampires in Scotland, what they consider vampires in Ireland, what they consider vampires in Hungary, Russia. So you have like, they talk about their traits. So like this one is from the Philippines, you know, and there's a picture of each one drawn at the very beginning of each section. It'll tell you the traits of them, how to protect against them. There's another Chupacabra, El Chupacabra, which is Puerto Rico and Mexico. So again, the traits of El Chupacabra, the reemergence of El Chupacabra. And honestly, before reading this, I didn't think of the fact that this would be considered a vampire creature, but it would be because in talking about it, they always talk about how it drained the blood of animals and things like that. So debating El Chupacabra's existence. So you get things like that in this book. And I found it to be very, very informative because it describes them, and I was able actually to pull from a different lores here to form the type of vampire I wanted in my story. So I kind of pulled from, you know, I mean, your basic archetype of a vampire is what I use, but I pulled traits from these different sources here, as well as how to guard against them or what can injure or kill them. So yeah, those are some of the books that I have that, you know, some of those, they can actually help you in your path. Mainly those Greek ones can help you with, like, let's say if you honor the Greek pantheon. Those books will be very good because you'll know about your gods and goddesses. You'll know their stories, different stories associated with them. Why they, like in Apollo's case, why the laurel is associated with why the laurel is associated with Apollo, him wearing a laurel wreath or whatever. I want to say Medusa's story might be in there too, but it's been years since I've read Metamorphoses. Ovid's Metamorphoses, not to be confused with Franz Kafka's Metamorphoses, which is totally different and has nothing to do with mythology. It's more of a social commentary written in symbolism. So, unless you're interested in reading about that, don't get Franz Kafka's Metamorphoses, Ovid's Metamorphoses. Or Ovid, however you want to pronounce it. So those are some of my books, non-pagan books, but yet might help you with your path. The Celtic books, same. Some of those mainly deal with the history of Celtic society, which is very beneficial to know, I think, if you are following a Celtic or Druidic path. Those who are practicing Druidism, I'm sure that you know more. Feel free to even list any books or book suggestions you think I might want to read or should, look into as well. Thanks for watching, and blessed day.